Hello, welcome back to another episode of Into the Unknown. Today's episode, we dive into the case where it took the devil to trial. And that's the case of Arne Johnson. We're going to dive into and see if it's a hoax, like was he lying, or was he actually possessed by a demonic entity? So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Without further ado, let's step into the unknown.
By chance they came on Devil's Game, and gosh, they paid the price. Paid the price. And now they're fighting for their lives on a mission fraught with dread. And if they proceed but don't succeed, well,
Okay, the story starts off back, of course, in 1981, in February. We've seen Arne. He stabbed a man. He stabbed a man over 20 times. That was the first murder ever done within that town in the 193-year history in Connecticut. So he went out and had an incident happen, and he was at a party, and he stabbed the man. We'll dive more into that as it goes on. But, the trial kind of come around, and they use, of course, possession by a demonic entity as the plea. So I kind of say that he's guilty by that. And that was one thing that kind of like threw everything into a loop. Got everything involved. We've seen different things kind of happen because they said originally the story, it started back when months before that even happened, the incident happened when he stabbed Bono. It was him with his girlfriend's brother, I think, who was said to be possessed by some demon entity and had multiple demonic entities around them. They said they performed an exorcism. They're trying to pray out the demons. And they said at one point, it was said that Arne told the demons to leave the boy body and use him instead. And when that happened, they said months later, I think within that same year, a murder happened. And then you see Arne, of course, being put on trial for murder and eventually got manslaughter. I thought that was one of the things that he got in front of the case, like that, because the jury convicted him of manslaughter. He spent 5 years in jail and eventually got out and lived the rest of his life. But it's kind of like hard to prove. Try to prove the devil's existence in court. Now, of course, court, they use, of course, the Bible like that. You put your hand in the Bible, like make an oath like that for help me God. I make this oath to not, lie under oath or anything like that. So they gotta look at the other side of things too, the negative side of things. So that's one way to look at it too. But the story was just crazy because he never had any incidents. He never had any prior like criminal incidents or anything that happened, of course, like in his tenure. But all of a sudden he just committed murder like that. That's the first murder in the town in 100-year history. And then, of course, Ed and Lorraine Warren, they got involved with it because it became like a media frenzy thing a little bit when it first happened. When he said he got arrested, he said, I don't know what happened. I can't remember anything or anything like that. And like he said, I feel like I was possessed. And when his attorney was using the possession to try to like plead his case, that's when Ed and Lorraine kind of got in the loop of things. And we've seen them. You guys know Ed and Lorraine Warren, demonologists. They hunt paranormal stuff as well, trying to prove the existence of demons. We've seen them throughout movies like The Conjuring and Annabelle, all type of things. And you also, of course, seeing interviews of them in real life and doing different things, trying to like, prove the existence of the devil, like the existence of demons and stuff. So that right there kind of like led more to the case. He made a book about it. Everything kind of dived into it. So we're gonna dive and look back into the story of like when the killing took place, and we're gonna see if it was actually a possession, or if it was not a possession. Because to this day, the family, even though most of them I think passed away like that, his girlfriend passed away, I think Arne is still alive, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. But to this day, most of the people around and surrounding him, even Ed and Lorraine Warren, before they passed away, they always said that they believe he was possessed. That they never switched their tune like that. But it was one person, or two people actually, who kind of had different views on it, who was kind of close to the family, not kind of close, it was close to the family, had different outlooks on that. So we're going to dive into them too. But let's dive into the first part, which we're going to discover like the murder that happened and everything that went on with that. So let's get into that right now. On February 16th, in 1981, Johnson called in sick to his job at the Right Tree Service and joined Debbie at the kennel where she worked, along with his sister Wanda and Debbie's 9-year-old cousin Mary. Bono, the couple's landlord at Debbie's employer at the kennel, bought the group lunch at a local bar and proceeded to drink a lot. After lunch, the group returned to the kennel, and Debbie then took the girls to get pizza, but insisted they return quickly. Anticipating trouble when they returned, Bono, intoxicated at this point, became agitated. Everyone left the room at Derby's urging, except Bono, who seized Mary and refused to let go. Johnson headed back to the apartment and ordered Bono to release Mary. Wanda recounted the following events to the police. Mary ran for the car as Debbie attempted to mitigate the situation by standing between the two men. Wanda tried in vain to pull Johnson away, Johnson growling like an animal, then drew a 5-inch pocket knife and proceeded to stab Bono repeatedly. Bono died several hours later. According to Johnson's lawyer, Bono had suffered 4 to 5 tremendous wounds, mostly to his chest and one that stretched from his stomach to the base of his heart. Johnson was discovered 2 miles from the site of the killing. Sergeant Gordon Fairchild of the Brookfield Police Department said he helped arrest Johnson on a charge of assault while Allen was being treated at the hospital. He said Johnson told him he did not mean to hurt anyone and was unable to remember anything. While putting him into the police cruiser, Johnson said, "I need help because I got a drinking problem." Fairchild said when Johnson was informed at the police headquarters that Bono had died from the wounds. Fairchild said the suspect became incoherent and then fell asleep for 20 to 25 minutes. When Johnson awoke from the sleep, police detective Sergeant John Lucas advised him of his rights and charged Arne Johnson with first-degree murder, and he was held at the Bridgeport Correctional Center on bail for $125,000. This was the first unlawful killing in the history of Brookfield, Connecticut. The day after the killing, Lorraine Warren informed the Brookfield police that Johnson was possessed when the crime was committed. A media blitz soon surrounded the story, fueled in part by the Warrens, whose agents promised that lectures, a book, and a movie detailing the gruesome cases were in the works of different possessions and paranormal activity that they discovered during their demonology research. Martin Minnella, Johnson's lawyer, received calls from all over the world about what was being called the demon murder trial. Minnella traveled to England and many places to meet with lawyers who had been involved in 2 similar cases. He planned to bring in exorcism specialists from Europe and threatened to subpoena the priests who oversaw David's Glassell exorcism if they did not cooperate with the defense. The trial took place in Connecticut's Superior Court in Danbury, beginning on October 28, 1981. Minnella attempted to submit a plea of not guilty by virtue of possession, but the presiding judge, Robert Callahan, promptly rejected this defense many times. Callahan argued that there is no such defense that could ever exist in a court of law due to the lack of evidence, and that it would be irrelative and unscientific to allow related testimony. The defense chose to imply that Johnson acted in self-defense. Because of this, the jury was not legally allowed to consider demonic possession as a viable explanation for the killing. The jury deliberated for 15 hours over the next 3 days before convicting Arne Johnson on November 24th in 1981 of first-degree manslaughter. On December 18, 1981, he was sentenced to a 10 to 20-year sentence behind bars, though he served only 5 years shortly after and was released. So you see, after he got arrested, after he stabbed Bono over those 20 times like that with the knife, that he was seen, the police officer seeing him like that, he said, I don't know what I done like that. I can't remember anything. He said, I didn't mean to hurt him like that. And they said he felt like, the police felt he was drunk. That was one thing as well, because like, you see, you blacked out, you remember anything that happened, and you killed somebody, you was at a party, you was partying, and all this stuff that's going on, so it's kind of like he was drunk. Then they found out that man was killed, and they kind of tied it together and feel like that. He kind of made it seem like it was like, oh, it because I was possessed by a demon and stuff in a sense. And they kind of made that one of the storylines because of what happened to the brother prior. So when you look at it that way, maybe he could have been drunk. Like that drunk and kill someone. Now he never had any prior history, but that don't mean you can't do a crime like that because you don't have a prior history. We still think things happen as well. And sometimes, people in general, maybe some people be serial killers and never get caught. So they never have no prior history either until you catch them in that moment. So I don't know if Arne was maybe intoxicated like that as well, or if it was just, maybe he was actually possessed by something as well. I know a lot of people don't believe in the demonic entities. They think of the science way, but some things in this world that you can't explain fully. So when you look at it that way, it could kind of like lead you to both. So I see why the judge kind of threw it out. He said he couldn't use any of that because it wasn't kind of scientifically proven. He can't prove that in court fully, but it kind of contradicts some of the stuff what is led by. America, especially in America, like everything led by like God and God we trust. You've been the oath, put your hand on the Bible, all that stuff like that. It kind of like, okay, if you believe in God and all that, you got to believe in the opposite of that too as well, like evil. It's the opposite of everything in life: good, evil, strong, weak, smart, stupid, everything like that. So you got to believe that there's going to be an opposite to that too. So look at the story. It does seem like he possibly could have been drunk and he could have like blacked out and had like some type of drunken rage or something that happened. But it's kind of like the first they seen him, because his girlfriend was saying that she like heard him, like she had to stop him. He just heard him growling like an animal, and he was just stabbing like that too. But people say maybe she's biased because that's his girlfriend like that. So maybe she's biased like that too, like that. But also she was one of the people that was close to the little brother, and the little brother, Gratzel's brother. He mentioned and said that he felt like it all was a hoax, like that he had a thing. He said that Lorraine used everything and made it was like a hoax, basically, in a sense. And he said he felt like they just kind of exploited it. And the dad kind of said that too a little bit. So it kind of made people believe that maybe they wasn't telling the truth, and they kind of used that to kind of give him a lighter sentence in jail. And maybe they did, maybe they did not. It's kind of hard to kind of tell and determine because no one was really there fully. Unless you got a forensic team to go back in there to see, you'll see, of course, what happened, like the blood splatter and the murder being happening, like him getting stabbed in the chest, and seeing that it was not a defensive wound. It was just a wound of him killing. But you can't really determine like if he was like under the influence of something else. But we do see things in this world, like if someone goes like absurd and start doing something crazy or something like that, are they possessed or something? But sometimes it could be just mental illness. So maybe that was the thing too as well. So you kind of look at it like maybe he was possessed, or maybe he was mentally ill, maybe he was drunk and he had a rage. So we don't know. Like that's one of the trials they try to prove like that. We've seen many alliterations and adaptations of that as well. We've seen Devil Made Me Do It, the Conjuring movie. The movies always exaggerate things for entertainment purposes, but they kind of follow the basis of the story. And we've seen, of course, The Devil on Trial like that as well. The demon. Oh, what was the other one? The old one. It was the demon to court. I think it was something like that thing. What was that old one called? It was like taking the demon to court or something. Yeah, the demon murder case. Yeah, that right there too as well. So you see a lot of different alliterations and adaptations of this story right here. So some people still believe it's a hoax. Some people still believe it that maybe he was possessed like that, but he only got manslaughter. Like that. So I guess they deemed it wasn't enough to give him first degree murder. He got first degree manslaughter like that. But yeah, because like it's a little crazy. You never know. You never know if it was true or not. Like, was he possessed actually, or was he not possessed? So that's the question for you guys to determine. Of course, the case is closed now. Just like Kenny Montgomery, the story we did on one of the early episodes into Unknown, not knowing exactly if she was doing a self-defense because he struck her 30 plus times with an axe. That's self-defense? I guess it is. They deemed it self-defense, but you don't know exactly what happened. Some people said that maybe like the wife bars that over the axe like that, and people said, why was she there in the first place? And so she was picking somebody up and all different things. So there's a lot of questions. So like sometimes in the old days, it's kind of hard because they didn't really have the technology to do some of the things like forensics can do now to determine certain stuff. That's why sometimes you see some crimes get solved nowadays than what it was years ago like that. But some things you just gotta you have to be there in the moment to see if it was actually true or not. So this is all I have for today's video, for today's episode of Into Unknown. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, like and subscribe for more content. And let me know below what you guys think. You believe that Arne was innocent and he was possessed? Or do you believe Arne was mentally disturbed? Or do you believe Arne was drunk and did this and used that possession and other stuff to kind of cover up to get a lighter sentence? Let me know down below what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time on Into the Unknown.